I did pick it.
Hey,
Hey, you around
I'm
18
not
years.
surprised how long you've been in the league and so many teams. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah. I picked him off, but I picked off a younger version of Ryan. This older version of Ryan actually is pretty damn good, and he can flat out play. Don't forget the guy got benched in Miami for winning too much. So that tells you a lot about him and where he's at. And he's in the top, hey, believe this or not, he's in the top 5, top 6 in QBR and completions in the last 3 years of his career. He's got better. It's like Ryan, he's getting better. But I got something that I feel, as much as I know Ryan is going to help us win and he's going to be that guy, you know, sometimes in football, it's all about the story. I feel a Kurt Warner type story happening with Tyler Heineke. I just feel if Ryan Fitzmagic missed just 1 or 2 games, he'll never get his job back again. I feel that Tyler Heineke would get in there and really become Kurt Warner of the Washington football team. Yes, the guy that comes out of nowhere that was bagging groceries that turns into a Hall of Famer. I gotta feel it.
How does that OG title make you feel to know that you had made an imprint into this fan base and things like that?
Oh, that's what it make you feel. Oh, you used to look at the guys like B. Mitch and Doc Walker, you Sonny Jurgensen's, and you like, man, they played and they was a part of historic teams, and all of a sudden, we didn't have any history. I think we brought a different energy to the city, and just having the luxury of playing with Sean T and playing with Santana, myself, Marcus, Christian. I think the guys, Smoke, those guys that was in that community meant so much. Even the unsung heroes, the Mike Sellers, the Rock Cartwrights, the Kerry Campbells, the list goes on. The people that was just embedded in the community and that meant well or did well. And then you have those guys that didn't do shit there that the community can't stand. So everybody came in, the guys that during my term, the LeVar Harringtons of the world that
yes, sir.
Everything community that participated, that was around.
Sir.
The change to
cut this thing down a little bit.
And, everything that had to go along with it. I think it was 05 or something.
It's been a little minute, man. It's been a little minute. At least on the Washington football side. Hold on, let me go ahead and change the screen up right quick. Hold on, shawty. Oh, there we go. All right. Boom. Welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Die podcast provided to you by 214 Media. I am your host, Mual, Henry Mual. All those other iterations of Jamal. I'm here with Dre and my boy Montel, Hefe, Gory Don. He's checking in tonight with his AJ on the way. Fellas, how y'all doing? Dre, what's going on with you, big dog?
What's good, man? Like I said, it's been a while. I feel like I might be a little bit rusty tonight. You know what I'm saying?
Man, look, it's gonna be right in the bike, bro. Ain't nothing. It's nothing.
This shit normal.
Absolutely. What's going on with you, Monte? I know you was talking to the little one about 2 seconds ago, bro. You want babysitting duties in the meantime?
Yeah, I'm waiting for wifey to come and grab him so I can set up shop in the basement. I'm kind of maneuvering right now, but nah, you good. You good. See,
you gotta be versatile for a little bit. Tell I said what's up.
Maul said what's up.
All that good stuff.
He said, hey, Jamal.
What up? All right. So we don't have like a lot of Washington topics to cover in the meantime. Obviously, as we know, the name is going to be dropping soon, next Wednesday, so a week from tomorrow, and that's going to be taking up a lot of people's time, at least for the following week and some change. And then right now we're in the midst of what you call a down period, and when you're in your down period, you got to figure out everything that's going to make your team better for the next year, because you are on the couch right now looking at the rest of the playoffs. Fellas, these games this weekend, that divisional round, the whole slate was kind of wild. Like, every underdog covered except for the Bills, who should have covered. They should have won. Like, all the dogs won outright except for the Buffalo Bills. And before we get into the weeds of the correlation to Washington, I'm just asking y'all about y'all opinion on the games, man. Montel, don't go too hard on Ryan. You know, he still got to hop on the show tomorrow. But, you know what I'm saying? I want to get y'all thoughts on the games overall before we start talking about Washington and all that good stuff. Dre, if you want to kick that off, you got it.
Yeah, no, the games was amazing. And I was actually looking forward to all of them because my son, he was asking me, he said, well, Dad, who you think gonna win these games this weekend? So I gave him all my winners. I said, I got the Bengals gonna win. I said, I want them to win, but I think the Titans might beat them at home. Then I had the Bills beating the Chiefs. I had the Packers beating the 49ers, of course. And what was it? The Rams and the Cardinals. I mean, the Rams and the Bucks. I said the Buccaneers will win. So I was wrong on just about every damn game. And I picked all of the favorites to win except Buffalo. I thought Buffalo would be the only one that would go on the road this weekend to win the game. And
that's even wilder that the opposite happened for every single game.
Exactly. That's how. Even though, like I said, I was happy to see the Bengals win because of something I pointed out on Sunday. I said, if you notice, all of the teams from the 80s are starting to be good again. Like every team that was like pretty much good in the 80s, like now they're starting to get it together at the same time, which is kind of unusual when you look at it these days. So it's fun to see that. Like I like to see the Bengals getting back in the groove again. You know, they were in the Super Bowl with the 49ers in the 80s, and that was the last time you really heard from the Bengals. Then the 49ers are good again. The Rams are good again. So now it's getting fun. We need Washington to get this shit together, but it's just fun to watch all of these teams just start to gel and, you know, because they got good fan bases. All of these teams have good fans, and the NFL is just pumping right now, man. You know, like I said, that like when we watched that game on Sunday, the Buccaneers and the Rams game, I thought that was going to be as good as it got for today. I said, man, shit, we still got more football to watch. Then the Chiefs Bills. That game, man, it was so back and forth. I mean, it was amazing, man. It was just the whole weekend. This was like the best weekend of football I watched in a long time.
Monte, where you at with this one?
I have to agree. It was definitely football nostalgia. You know, to see all the teams, like he mentioned, from the 80s, and you already pointed out, I was going to say, except for our team. But a lot of teams from the 80s they're coming back. They're coming around and they're making – and they're making it known like they're not sweet anymore. It's just crazy to see the Bengals 2 years removed from a number one overall pick, and now they're in the AFC Championship. That is
the title game.
Yeah,
like they were just good with getting off the stride for 30 years. These folks they won two games in one playoff season, bro.
you get your quarterback that change everything.
Yeah, bro, that's just crazy.
I think it's more than that. I do think it's more than that, but I do think that Joe Burrow is real deal, and it's insane to see them make that type of turnaround. I'm interested. I don't see them winning this weekend, but I'm interested to see what happens moving forward, subsequent to this point, because it was a good year. You made it to championship. Now you got to follow it up next year. We can't count them out completely, but
so you want to know who was bad, bro? That boy Ryan Tannehill. And terrible. What's frustrating about the Tannehill thing? It has nothing to do with Tennessee. It actually is indirectly involving Washington, but it's just the strength of when you plug in your average to above average quarterback in a team who clearly, like, that defense, they won that side of the ball. They played excellent football. Like, you can't take anything away from that. That offense had a decent running game. It was inconsistent, but they had a decent running game for the most part. But when it comes down to your quarterback play and how bad he was in majority of the game, you look back at the opportunities that your team has in certain games, and even in the playoffs, because they went to the playoffs 3 straight years with Tannehill. You look at all these things that's going on with Tennessee, and not every single game that they lost deals with the quarterback per se. But when you see when they lose these type of games that they lost to Cincinnati, and you're saying if only the quarterback could have been better, an average to above average quarterback is where you meet your limitations. The playoffs, everything gets tougher, everything gets more critical, every mistake gets more impactful. And when the quarterback is not ready for the moment based on his skill set or based on how what's the word that I'm thinking of? Limited. How limited he is, you're gonna meet those obstacles, and you can't start off slow like Tennessee does, and they always start out slow. They start out slow in the regular season too, but when it happens in the playoffs, now you can't make no mistakes. And that's kind of the things that you get when you get a above average at most quarterback. Because I'm not gonna say Tannehill is trash, but he's not great.
Jamal, the funny thing about that is on the flip side, while you are right about, the limitations that you face and the obstacles that a quarterback like Tannehill is going to face in a playoff type setting. But on the other conference, you see Jimmy Garoppolo is in the goddamn conference championship and he's 2 years removed from a Super Bowl. Yeah. So it's like, it just depends on how the ball bounces sometimes in the game. And I did think Tennessee, it's no excuse because they've been getting it done all year. But they face a lot of turmoil this season. We talked about Washington with injuries. Shit, but how many players did Tennessee use? They used about 90 different players this year. And then Derrick Henry, this was his first game in a couple of months playing back. And I didn't think he looked good. He looked a little timid a couple of times trying to hit the hole in that game. And I was like, what the hell? When does Derrick Henry hesitate? But maybe he wasn't fully healthy. But I think a healthier Derrick Henry may have changed that game because you probably get that 4th and 1, that critical 4th and 1 that they missed earlier in the game. And you don't put so much on Ryan Tannehill's plate, which is what you don't want to do, and which is what San Francisco tries to do in giving Jimmy Garoppolo some help.
So here's the difference though between the two quarterbacks, right? Now I'm not going to completely discredit Tannehill, but here's one thing, and I learned this after what he did against Green Bay. But Garoppolo is one of the best quarterbacks in crunch time. Like he's been that for a long period of time, and it never dawned on me how that was. And when he got that moment, and you compare the two with Tennessee and San Francisco, when he got that moment against Green Bay, he came through and let him down for the field for the game-winning field goal. Tannehill had that same situation through an interception. Yeah. And he threw an interception. Like he said, I don't want nothing to do with this game no more. Get me out. I'm done. And like I think that's kind of the difference. Is like there is something different about Garoppolo. In the fact that he has a unique trait. He has one of those traits that can say this is some of the greats. That's what they have. Like they have certain things. He doesn't have all of the traits to make him an elite player. He has one trait that elite players have. And that's kind of the difference between these quarterbacks. So,
hey man, you giving Jimmy Garoppolo way too much credit, bro. Like, that's a problem with people in these quarterbacks, bro. Like,
what you mean? What you mean? I'm giving them too much credit, man. What?
For wins and all this, like, with Jimmy Garoppolo, pretty much in my eyes, he damn near threw like 3 or 4 pick sixes in that game during crunch moments. It's just Packers didn't make a play on it. Like, at the end of the day, the system that he's in is so easy for him as a quarterback. All he has to do is protect the ball. Someone is going to be open scheme-wise. There's always someone open on every fucking passing play. It's just, I think we're giving him too much credit. And
I'm giving him too much credit by saying that he's one of the most winningest quarterbacks in crunch time. Let's give him too much credit.
You give him too much credit in that, and you also like saying he has special intangibles and things of that nature. And
I said he has elite trait. We got to get my words right if you going to criticize me about Garoppolo, bro. I said he has elite trait. He has an elite trait. That is called mental toughness, bro. Like, it doesn't matter what you go through, you're gonna keep fighting, bro. You're gonna keep going down and fighting for your team, bro. And the teammates believe in him. Like, it's just as simple as that. I didn't say anything else outside of the fact that he has one elite trait. Like that, if the fact that the numbers don't back that up, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, it do, and it's something I found out after the game. I didn't say that in real time. It's just the fact that he does win. He wins in critical moments, bro. That's it.
Hey, man, we gonna agree to disagree on Jimmy Garoppolo.
Here's where I agree with AJ just a little bit, and I said this weekend after Matt Stafford made that throw. How many elite guys have come through the league and just been in the wrong place under the wrong scheme, and we'll never know if they're great? Jimmy Garoppolo, we'll see what he really is next year because he's going to get paid big money to potentially go to a team that is not the 49ers, that does not have Kyle Shanahan. I don't think he's going to have those same crunch time numbers because I think in a lot of those games he'll be getting blown out, and it's because they're going to need Jimmy Garoppolo to really play quarterback and not play action, and we're going to run the. that's the team that he goes to next year. Unless he chooses a team that's stacked like the 49ers with an offensive line like Shanahan, I think we'll see who Jimmy Garoppolo really is.
That's
And for me, with Jimmy G, like I'm actually kind of glad he had the game that he just had, even though he did kind of lead him down to a field goal, but he had an awful game. I mean, it was a pretty terrible game. They only won the game because of that damn special teams play on San Francisco.
I had a -5.5, bro.
Yeah.
I was so sick.
So I mean. And the reason why I say I'm glad that happened, because the week before when they beat the Cowboys, the talk about Jimmy G was that, if the 49ers are going to trade this guy, he's probably going to command a first-round pick. And all I kept thinking about was Washington. I'm like, damn, we'll probably be that damn team desperate enough to give him that first-round pick. And so then I'm looking at him have this bad game. You kind of see the 49ers win in spite of him, which is kind of the point I was bringing up, the whole Tannehill thing. But you saw the 49ers win in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo for the most part. And I'm hoping that other teams, not just Washington, but other teams realize this isn't a guy, you go out and just make a desperate trade for you give up a desperate first round pick for, or whatever the case may be. At most, he looks like a guy will probably, I mean, not me personally, but if you're going to trade for him, you're probably going to give a third round pick or something for. But just because of the market is going to dictate, and they're going to probably get something higher than that. But I just hope it's not us. And I hope that game right there proved that we shouldn't be that desperate to give up high assets for Jimmy Garoppolo.
I completely agree. And here's one thing that we got, fellas. So I'm gonna start it off. And I want to get your thoughts on this. What's going on, Wilson? He said he think that Jimmy G gonna be watching his next quarterback. I don't think so, bro. It's a road that you don't want to go down. Just from a overall look on the team, bro, because he's gonna have to get extended. He's gonna have to play at least 2 years here, and you don't want that. But here's the thing: when you ask the question to yourself, and people that's listening live or watching live and also listen to the podcast, think for a second, what do these teams in the divisional round, what do they have that Washington doesn't? And something dawned on me. I don't remember when I wrote this. I may have wrote it before the playoffs before the division round even started. But when we talk about all this time that we spent on the quarterback position, Washington is missing much more than some of these teams that's on the field in the divisional round. And if I go team by team, I'll be quick with my names. I'm gonna just throw some names out there. Let's go with the Cincinnati Bengals and Tennessee Titans. So Cincinnati Bengals have Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and then you have a decent running back in Joe Mixon, and I would say he's more than decent, but he's just the fact that he's not on that pushing elite status already like Jamar and Joe is. Then you have people on the Titans side, a Hall of Famer in Derrick Henry. You have A.J. Brown and you have Julio Jones. On the defensive side, their defensive line is really good. You have elite talent on that roster. Like Bonafide, there's no question you have elite talent. You go to the other games, San Francisco, Green Bay, Nick Bosa on the defensive side of the football. You have Fred Warner at the linebacker position. You have Trent Williams on the offensive side, the tight end, Debo. You have all that talent, and then on the Sunday games, Rams, we already know who we got: Matt Stafford, Odell, Cooper, Robert Woods when he was there, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, Mike Evans, the defensive line, the linebackers, the front seven. These are elite players. Like, just think about them. They all have elite players on these teams. And then you go to the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, the defense, I'll just say they're well coached. Like, they really are. It really is that simple. But the linebacker, I forgot his name for a second. And obviously Tre'Davious White, he's really good as well. And then obviously Kansas City, Pat Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, the defensive line, Clark, and then the other dude, Chris Jones. Like, they have elite talent. And for Washington, when you think about all of the pieces that they need, or excuse me, the one piece that they need in quarterback, you kind of exclude the fact that these guys also are missing elite talent. And that's what kind of takes these teams consistently to the playoffs and make them consistently competing for championships. Washington, I don't think Washington has that right now. I'm not saying they can't get it this offseason, but that's where I'm at. Washington doesn't have it right now, fellas. What do y'all think about that?
Yeah, I guess I can go ahead and start. For me, watching every team, and it's something I kind of mentioned too about the teams. Kind of a lot of the teams from the '80s getting their shit together, but it's if you look at all of the teams, they have a foundation set that's been kind of getting set for years now. Like every team that's right now, even still playing or played this past weekend, they've had head coaches that have been kind of laying a foundation down for a couple of years. Even with the Bengals, Zach Taylor, he's been in Cincinnati since 2019. This is their first playoff year. Joe Burrow, I mean, he got drafted last year, but they've been laying a foundation. This is his third year. You don't really see any green coaches playing, coaching teams, that's still playing or were playing last week. Andy Reid, you look at him. Kyle Shanahan's been with the 49ers for a few years now. Like I said, Mike Vrabel, Tennessee's coach, he's been there for a few years now. He's been laying that New England kind of foundation down there. And then, like I said, Zach Taylor. And then you got, it's Sean McVay, he's been there for a few years now. So all of these coaches, they've been kind of settled in to their teams. And, that's something different. The obvious answer would be to say all of those teams have pretty much functional quarterbacks. But some people may argue and tell you that Jimmy Garoppolo isn't good or Ryan Tannehill is, average. But even still, they have a foundation where those type of guys can come in and win. So it's deeper than quarterback. Like I said, they have a foundation, and that's what Washington kind of needs to establish now. Like this will be year 3 coming up in the Ron Rivera regime, and fans are expected to win now. Fans aren't kind of giving you the patient excuses of, this needs to take time. No, fans want to see results now. We're past the honeymoon phase. So now year 3 is when you want to see your team take that next leap. And I think that's a fair thing, because I used to always say when it came to general managers or front offices, the saying was that you would give 3 years to kind of assess where you are, because it takes kind of 3 years to kind of turn things around. So we're going into year 3. This is when we expect to kind of see the progress that we see those teams that are playing this weekend and last weekend.
Well, when I look at the teams in the championship game right now, you got, and I personally believe that the Bills should be there. I wish that the Chiefs and Bills game was this week opposed to last week, but that's not how it worked out. But when I look at the teams that were in the division around in the elite teams, I didn't even know that the Bills were the number 1 ranked defense, and the Chiefs just ran up and down the field on them. They just ran up and down the field. So I'm looking at a lot of these offenses. Of course, quarterback is the easy answer, but a lot of these offenses, I don't care how good your defense is, you can have an all-world defense in today's game, and you can get 50 put up on you. Now, quarterback is the equivalent of a queen on the chessboard. But more important than the queen is the chess master. I think that all of those teams have elite offensive coordinators. And this is going to ruffle some feathers. But when you look at Scott Turner, his peak is probably about middle of the pack. And I hear a lot of fans saying, I don't want a middle of the pack quarterback. I don't want a middle of the pack quarterback. I want Russell Wilson, I want Deshaun Watson, or I don't want nobody. Well, guess what? You shouldn't want a middle of the pack offensive coordinator either, because Sean McVay is in the championship game. Kyle Shanahan is in the championship game. Andy Reid is in the championship game. All of these guys are offensive minds. And all of these guys, the people under them are getting interviews. Kevin O'Connell is getting an interview to be a head coach. Eric Bieniemy, of course, we know his track record. We know who Kyle Shanahan is. We know. So I believe that that's what we're missing most of all, because if you ask me, Terry McLaurin is a 1,400-yard per season guy. And although his quarterback was Taylor Heineke, I still believe that there were games where he should have gotten more targets and he should have gotten more looks. I still believe that Taylor Heineke's best asset was his legs. I know he's moxie. I know he's likable. His best asset was his legs, and we didn't use him. I still believe that Antonio Gibson was a receiver coming out of college, and we don't use him in the passing game. So there are a lot of things about this team that make us far away. But, again, I think that this team could have done a lot better had the guy calling the plays on offense been a little bit better himself.
Hey, that's music to AJ's ears.
I was about to say AJ would love that.
I mean, yeah, because, I mean, at the end of the day, coaching matters. And it doesn't matter how much elite talent you have on paper on the field. At the end of the day, if you don't have the guys coaching them up on both sides of the ball, it's irrelevant. Like, you take the Final Four teams, vying for the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. They have great offensive staffs and defensive staffs on both sides of the ball, experienced staffs at that. Maybe Chiefs defense is not highly ranked, but Spagnuolo has won a Super Bowl, calling plays for the New York Giants as their D coordinator. He's been around the league long enough.
Well, AJ, let me ask you this: What do you think about Brian Daboll from the Buffalo Bills? What's your opinion of him?
I think he calls. I think some of the plays are good, but at the same token, they have a quarterback who does a lot of things off script. That's why I consider Josh Allen to be the white Cam Newton in a sense.
I was getting ready to say they also adjusted their offense to his skill set too. It's not just
and they also have
plays.
a wide receiver. They have a number one wide receiver that's a real fucking threat in Stephon Diggs. That's why Gabriel Davis was open on so many plays. Like, I mean, he had the game of his life. Like, he probably couldn't even help himself score 3 or 4 touchdowns in Madden if he tried. You feel me? So
but look, AJ,
to do that in real life is like insane. Like,
I was gonna say,
mom and dad were like, "God damn, boy!"
Hey, that shit was incredible, bro.
Look,
that man looked like an all-pro out there. Like,
reason why I asked AJ that is because before last year when Josh Allen had his breakout year, we actually talked about Josh Allen on the show a couple of times, but before he had his breakout year, Brian Daboll had one of the most underwhelming resumes an offensive coordinator could possibly have. But all of that changed once he had a quarterback that started playing on the MVP level. So that's kind of my point with Scott Turner. Like, seeing the pieces that he's had to work with, it's very underwhelming to see the pieces. I mean, I'm not saying Scott Turner can be this or that, but what I'm saying is Brian Daboll.
You just want him to get a fair shot.
That's what I'm saying. He's kind of how you all talk about Scott Turner now before Josh Allen had his breakout season.
But I mean, I guess with Daboll, you can say he went to Alabama. He called that offense before he went to Buffalo. So you could see some of those things from a college standpoint, schematically, that would have you intrigued. With Scott Turner, that man just came from being like an assistant, like a offensive assistant, to just being propelled to offensive coordinator, and you didn't see anything in Carolina. Ron brought him over here to Washington. You still really haven't seen any glimpse of being creative, like Hefe, pointed out with Antonio Gibson. Like, bro, you telling me you couldn't use Gibson the same way 49ers getting creative with Devo, or Cordell Patterson? Like, you have 2 guys in McKissick and Gibson who are former wide receivers, and you're not utilizing their skill set while they're both on the field. So it's like when you bring in McKissick on and you sub out Gibson, teams automatically, it's 80% chance that this is a pass play. Like, because you ain't bringing him in to pass protect. You're not really bringing him in to run. If he does run, it's probably like 3 times in a game. Might be a little draw or outside zone. So it's just like you don't see that creativity that gets you excited about, like, the future with Scott Turner, even if he does have, an elite talent at quarterback. I feel like, he knows Taylor Heineke, and we didn't even see enough plays created utilizing what Taylor's strengths are, which is his legs and his mobility. Like, you didn't really see that utilized at all. But, back to the main point, is just like you even look at the Buffalo Bills, they almost made it to the Super Bowl, like an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl without their number one corner, without their star defensive player. That just tells you how much the coaching matters, whether we want to say it's a heavy influence of Leslie Frazier or Sean McDermott. It matters who your coaches are. Like, so at the end of the day, like, yeah, some of these teams have elite talent, but you also need the guys like the Raheem Morris on the defensive side, the coach up, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, put Jalen in the right positions to be able to travel wherever he wants to. The Leslie Fraziers, maybe they didn't do the best job of stopping Kansas City, but it's hard to teach speed. When you got Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, and Travis Kelce out there, and you got a solid running back, and Mahomes is a quarterback, it's kind of hard to the game plan for all those different things. Like, what are you really going to stop? Like, you got to pick your poison. You're going to get beat some way or the other. So I think it just really boils down to coaching. Coaching matters alongside with the talent, and maybe it doesn't even take talent, just having guys play with cohesion.
I would never forget that 2012 or 2013 Kansas City Chiefs team, bro. It was the year before Andy Reid got there, and them niggas went 4-12 on the year and had 9 Pro Bowlers. They had 9 Pro Bowlers on that team, bro. And the next year they got Andy Reid, fucking Alex Smith, and went 11-5 or 12-4, whatever the record was. Made the playoffs the very next year, bro. The same roster, added the quarterback, added the coach, and fucking playoffs. Playoffs. All that shit, bro. And I'm saying that whole roster was stacked. And I forgot who their coach was before Andy Reid got there. I don't remember. But the fact that you were losing that much with a roster that stacked, bro, I will never forgive that at all.
I think it was Todd Haley.
Haley, okay, that guy.
Yeah.
I remember him.
Todd Haley.
So I too said, where was the one he mentioned? He said he thinks that Washington has a foundation. We got defensive line, solid depth, that O-line, a number 1 receiver, number 1 running back, and a number 1 tight end. We need a true free safety, a true Mike, and the quarterback. I think most of the rest of the pieces are already there already. Darius, what's going on? Darius mentioned we needed another dog aside Terry. Correct. Where else are we at? He mentioned Darius as well. Mentioned Scott sometimes too predictable. Hopefully everyone is healthy so we can make this offense diverse. All right.
Hey, quick question. Do we really have a number 1 running back?
That's a good question.
We was gonna get to that.
Oh.
We can start off with that. We can start off with that position. Let's go ahead and break down our roster breakdown, man. Preview. We'll get these grades for the offensive side of the football and also the free agents that's pending and that can be some potential targets. We can go ahead and start off with the running back because that's a good question. AJ asked if we really had a number 1 running back. So right now we have J.D. McKissic who's pending. He's a pending free agent, 28 years old. SpotRack does have his estimated market value at $3.5 million. So that's what it needs for around the number to take to re-sign J.D. McKissic. But fellas, to AJ's question, I'll hand it back to you all. Do y'all think that we have number 1 running back? And then also in your question, what grade would you give this unit as it stands today? It don't matter who goes.
I can go ahead and start it off. I would give the backs a B. I think that, Gibson had 1,000 yards this year, but the fumbling problem, you don't last in this league if you can't hold on to the ball. That's just point blank, period. And not only that, he's very inconsistent as a runner. He's 230 pounds, but he doesn't always run like he's 230 pounds. Sometimes he tries to hit the outside too much. I know you're a big, fast guy, but sometimes you just got to get downhill. And in the games where he was just getting downhill, you can see the difference in the offense. I love McKissic personally. We're not even certain if he's going to be back. And then he got injured mid-season, and it showed you how important he was to this offense. This offense literally was done after McKissic went down. It was like he was almost the last straw because Thomas had went down. But after McKissic went down, the offense was a wrap. So I give it a B. It's not McKissic's fault that he got hurt, but he did get hurt. And I think that Gibson, I don't view him as a feature back. I think that he's a good compliment to somebody or someone else can compliment him. He's not an every down back. I think he'd be great in first and second down situations. I think you need somebody else that can come downhill to maybe spare him so he doesn't get injured. Because if he goes down as well, we're also done. We have no one else who can come down here. So I think he needs someone else. Get McKissic back. And I think you go with 3 backs. I like Patterson, but I don't think he's quite big enough. And I don't know if his skill set and his body size is ideal for what you're looking for in an NFL back.
So before y'all go right quick, I just want to ask Montel's question. Montel, like when you play ball, how did your coach, if they did this part, because we know how Flowers is, how did your coach teach you like the mental side of the game, like as you're processing things on the field? Did they do anything specific to help you prepare for that side, or was it always just like we're gonna look at film, we're gonna hit the weight room, and then we're gonna go practice? Did they give you any tips to how to read a defense as you're moving alongside the run blocks and stuff like that?
Well, in high school, everything is instinctual. Honestly, I did not know how to watch film. I just knew I had good vision myself, but everything was instincts. It was just like if it's there, you let your eyes lead your feet, and everything from the bag drills, all of that stuff remedied itself. It played itself out on the field. There was really not
All
much
right.
film, but that's pretty much it.
Okay. Now I was just curious. I didn't know if they did anything on that level. All right. Drake.
Yeah, for the running backs, for the grade, I would have to give him a C plus. I'll give him a C plus, and the C plus is because Gibson had the fumbling problems all year. He had the fumbling problems all year, and he did have the 1,000-yard season, but I don't think he impacted enough games in the running game to make this team where they will bring the team where they needed to be. And then J.D. McKissick, my grade would have been a little bit higher if he didn't go out to injury. He got injured, and the offense pretty much suffered after J.D. McKissick was gone. Like, he's the quintessential third down back. I mean, he's the guy. He's your jack of all trades. He does it all. That's the guy you need in your offense. But as far as potential targets, and to AJ's question about being if we do have a number one back on this roster, I don't know if we have that. So if I am in the market and, so to speak, we don't give up, any key picks in a trade or anything, and we go draft a quarterback in the first round, whatever. If we are in the market still for a running back, I'm looking at guys like a Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State or a Breece Hall out of Iowa State. Kenneth Walker is a beast. I watched. He played for Wake Forest before he played for Michigan State, and he didn't shine until he got to Michigan State. But Kenneth Walker looks like what this team wants Antonio Gibson to be, and that's a guy I will be targeting in the second round or something like that if I'm in the market for a running back.
AJ.
Yeah, I think I'm with Jay. I'll probably give him a C plus as far as grade. I think some of it has to do with their own things that they can control, and then other things that they can't control with the play calling. But definitely Antonio Gibson. He started week 1 with a crucial fumble against the Chargers in the red zone. I was at the game right in front of him, pretty much like where he fumbled. And I'm just like, yo, this is terrible. And the season before that, he was having the same issue with fumbling. So it's like to start off week 1, same issue, and it continued for the rest of the season. And just kind of understanding this staff, they're gonna look to bring in somebody that they're familiar with. And people are gonna hate to hear it, but they're probably gonna be in the market for Christian McCaffrey. No matter how much injuries he's had over the past couple of years, they like going after guys that they're familiar with. Scott Turner has worked with him. Ron Rivera has worked with him his majority of his career. He's an every down back when healthy. He provides you everything that you want out of a running back. He's Gibson and Moore and McKissick all together in one package. I wouldn't be surprised if they, call Carolina and see what's up. He traded a 5th-round pick for Kyle Allen just to ride the bench. So why wouldn't he trade for an elite guy such as Christian McCaffrey? When he's healthy, he's one of the best backs in the NFL. There's no one on the free agent market that's intriguing enough. I mean, yeah, ideally you would like to keep McKissick, but Ron does not trust Antonio Gibson to hold on to that ball. And once that faith is gone, that trust is gone, as y'all most know, even in your personal life relationships, once that trust is gone, the relationship's over. And they really don't have any financial ties to him that, they can't really just easily part from Antonio Gibson. That's not to say that they would trade him, but he could easily just ride the bench and kind of play a smaller role. I think the 1,000 yards, I don't know. I think, can I say that it's probably like overrated? I don't know. I want to say that it's overrated in some regards, but you didn't really see a 1,000-yard rusher when you watched the games. Like, you didn't see those impactful plays being made by Gibson that would make you feel like, damn, I feel good about this running back that we got. Like, he's Jonathan Taylor, he's Alvin Kamara, or whatever the case is. You don't get that oomph. Like, yeah, I feel like
you would know in year 2. And to AJ's point, you would know if Antonio Gibson was a Christian McCaffrey or Alfred Kamara. But to your point, if we were to get another running back this offseason, he can do what you want him to do right now. He can play in the receiving game. He can be that gadget guy that you want him to be. He can, instead of trying to force him to be this, every down running back, he can be the guy you start just looking to more in the passing game.
Yeah, and I feel like if you bring in the Christian McCaffrey now, maybe you could slide over Gibson to play slot. He could be a slot receiver. He's a great matchup. You can get creative there, but once again, we got an offensive coordinator for the time being, because surprisingly, a lot of teams haven't made announcements of firing their coaching staff yet, and making moves there. But I just feel like you don't have a number one running back when you fumble 5 times in the season. And not just like in the middle of the field, man. We talking about red zone fumbles. Like, we're talking about game-altering fumbles. Not like, hey, we up 30-13, but talking about you right there in the game, like, and you're fumbling the ball. You're changing all momentum and giving the team W's, with these type of fumbles. So, yeah, I'm just thinking. We'll know here soon in like another month and a half, but I think the writing's on the wall. Like, if a guy like Christian McCaffrey is openly going to be on the market, ain't no way in hell you're not about to tell me Ron Rivera ain't thinking about, damn, let me go bring my boy from Carolina over here, because he done did it to about 10 players already with Washington, and his coaching staff is all Carolina. So that's been his number one guy outside of Cam Newton in his tenure with the Panthers.
It's a mixed bag. So Al too is hilarious. He said that's NFC Writers Association first team Antonio Gibson.
Is that first team running back? He's first team all pro?
No, he wasn't no first team all pro.
I think
NFC Writers Association. Nah, I don't even know where that is, but I know they have like writers associations. They have votes and stuff like that. So I think he made a first team list.
Man, that sounds like a Facebook group.
Yeah,
I need to know. Yeah, that shit don't sound right, dog. I need some credentials there. What the fuck is he first team for?
Hey, so listen though, for running back, man,
Discord channels award.
The awards, they send it out to everybody on Twitter and social media and shit. Let's vote. Let's have a poll and shit for 2 weeks. See how that go. But like for me, bro, so 2 things. I can understand that the thought of a Christian McCaffrey, but I think it comes into conflict with what you do with a quarterback position if you were to go the trade route. You're not going to trade for Christian and a quarterback. If you were going to do a trade, it'll be for one for the other. So it's like who becomes priority if you have the opportunity to get a quarterback or a running back, and I don't think they're going to be choosing goddamn running back or a quarterback.
Let's say if you can get Christian for a third and maybe a third next year, would you not be interested? It still puts you in position to get your quarterback if you think about
absolutely trading. If that's all, yeah,
if you can do
in
a
this
third,
trade, in the trade, Carolina would eat a lot of his contract.
I just don't think they're willing to do it. I don't think Rule is going to be in that. Like, Rule is about to get fired. He's not about to ship off. He's not going to ship off Christian McCaffrey. A guy who, when healthy, is as pivotal to their offense as he was with Ron Rivera and all of his 1,000 offensive coordinators. When he was there, I like I said, the conversation is cool, but that's I just don't think it'll end up working out logistically. But in terms of running backs, man, there are some running backs out there that I think serves the purpose of what Washington will need, whether it be becoming that complementary back to Antonio Gibson or replacing J.D. McKissick. I'm all for replacing J.D. I mean, excuse me, not replacing. I'm all for re-signing J.D. McKissick. I think this running back group was a I would say a B- or C+ range, primarily due to Gibson's fumbling problems, but also the fact that he left plenty of yards on the field. I really didn't like that part because as much yardage that he got, he could be even better. And I don't know if he'll be I don't know if he'll ever be able to maximize his potential. I'm not sure, but fingers crossed that comes true. But for me, potential targets I had Marlon Mack from the Indianapolis Colts. He's on his spot rack. He's estimated at $2.5 million, which is cheaper than J.D. McKissic. Ronald Jones from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2.7 estimated annual average, AAV, whatever. And then Matt Breida from the Buffalo Bills, formerly the San Fran 49ers. He's a very hard runner, a guy who was, I would say, more in tune with a specific scheme, zone scheme. I don't know how they did things up in Buffalo. I didn't study them enough, but things didn't work out, and I don't think he's going to be staying in Buffalo this year, especially with the lack of touches that he got out there. So there's options out there in the free agent market that I think could work for Washington if they're going to go down that route. I don't know, but there's things out there. As we move forward to the tight end position, we have Ricky Seals-Jones is the only pending tight end for Washington. 26 years old. Had a decent season filling in, or tried to, because he got hurt too, filling in for Logan Thomas, excuse me. But I'll put out the names of the targets in free agency, and then we can circle back to the grades in our assessment of the position. So Ricky Seals-Jones is the pending free agent for Washington. You have some potential targets out there, and Mike Gesicki, who will be commanding $11 million, David Njoku, $6.9 million, and then Jesse James, who clearly isn't a top tier talent, but depending on the route that you want to take with the tight end position, trying to fill that void until Logan Thomas comes back, Jesse James could be that number 2 or number 3 tight end if you want to promote John Bates as that starter until Logan Thomas gets here. So fellas, kick it off to you all, whoever wants to take the first stab, your opinion on the tight end position this year and how things folded out.
How severe was Ricky Seals-Jones' injury? I feel like we never
it was a concussion. Am I tripping?
I thought it was a neck injury.
I don't know what he had.
Yeah, he was hurt.
He was hurt though. He was hurt.
He left out on the stretcher. If his injury
it was two concussions. It was concussions.
He got two concussions at once.
Yeah. One said it was a neck injury, but he was fine after it. Like, he was
boy,
done.
Upset stomach.
And then hey, when he fell in the end zone, bro, against the Eagles, bro, I didn't even know. Like, he got knocked out hitting the ground, and it didn't even look like he got hit that hard.
It was punishing.
That's what I. So I only asked that because if his injury wasn't that severe, I want him back. I'm just being I want him back. I don't want Jesse James. I don't want David Njoku. I don't want Gesicki, even though he's a great talent. I like this tight end group, and I like Logan Thomas. I don't know if he's going to be 100% the same, but Logan Thomas is a big target. He's not shifty, and I don't think his knee injury will really affect his game because he's not the fastest guy to begin with. He's not the most agile guy. He just gets open, and it's not pretty. And it reminds me kind of sort of Chris Cooley. And a lot of people don't like guys like that because it's not flashy. Logan Thomas gets open. He catches the ball. He's almost as sure-handed as anybody else on his team. He's not great after the catch, but he's a big body. I like him. I like Ricky Seals-Jones because he's a former receiver. He's agile. And when he catches the rock, he can make a move with it. And I love John Bates. John Bates might have been the most impressive rookie. And that tells you how bad our draft class was. But I think he might have been the most impressive rookie out of all of our draft picks. I think the tight end group is solid. I don't think we need to change much there. And they still got the guy that they got from Chile, I believe. And you don't know.
I forgot about that guy, Sammy's Ray.
Yeah, but he's an athletic freak. But I don't think you really need to do much. That's one of those position groups you try to stay in-house and just re-sign everybody that you – I know Logan Thomas has another – he just was signed to an extension, but I bring Ricky back, continue to develop Bates, and I just rock out with my tight ends like that.
And I agree with a lot what Montel was saying, especially with I like John Bates. I liked him in college. I think he played with Boise State. He was pretty good with Boise State. And I didn't think he got a lot of opportunities early on because, Logan was the guy that we expected to go in, to do things. And as far as the grade I'm going to give the guys, I still have to say a C+ because we expected more out of Logan with the extension we gave him in the year he had in his first year here. We expected more out of him, but he was obviously hurt a lot of the year. He got hurt on 2 separate instances this year. One of them was a dirty play. That's not his fault, but still, we didn't get the production from that spot that we wanted to get. But Ricky Seals-Jones did come in, and he played adequate at the position. I mean, he was a former wide receiver in college. He was one of those guys that converted from wide receiver to tight end in the NFL. And you know, you could tell he can receive, he can catch the ball. But John Bates the guy to watch out for going forward. He's the guy that can block. They like that. They really like that. He can also get open. And to Montel's point about wide receiver tight ends needing to be flashy, you're right. I don't need a tight end to be flashy. You know who wasn't flashy, who had an excellent career in his career?
Don't say it.
Jason Witten.
I knew you was going to say that. Oh, my God.
Jason Witten, he's the poster child of not flashy tight ends that's always open and just does his job, and a guy who is always at the top of his position.
Hated that motherfucker.
We hated him. We hated him. But why do we hate him? Because he was the slowest
guy
on the field. He had no athletic ability, but he was always open and he did his job. And he was a superstar. He got a Monday Night Football announcer career off of him playing for the Cowboys and doing his job. So all I need is a tight end like John Bates to come in and do a job. So we're talking about potential targets. I'm not looking in the free agency class because we just paid Logan Thomas last year, and we still have John Bates, and we also have Ricky Seals-Jones. But if they are in the draft market, you know, I'm a draft guy. If they are in the draft market and they're looking at guys to, you know, improve the position or at least have bodies there to kind of groom along, I'm looking at a Trey McBride out of Colorado State. I think he's the best at the position. He's a guy you could probably get in the second or third round, and that's a guy I would look to draft because Logan Thomas, I do not think he'll be available to start the year. So John Bates and Ricky Seals-Jones, I think they're good to start the year, but if you still want a little bit more, you want something for the future, a guy like Trey McBride from Colorado State is a guy I'm looking at.
That's the piece that I think that everybody's missing is the Logan Thomas part. Like, you have to take into account that the man got hurt late in the season with the ACL injury. Now, people come back within a year, right? But sometimes it takes a year. And on top of that, when you're able to play football again, it may take you even longer to like feel yourself again. So he may not even be back, like quote unquote back until 2023. Like, we don't know that part yet. So that's just the part that I don't think people is taking into account. Before AJ go, chat. Everybody, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, if you can type, but I don't think you can type over there. Grades on so far, the tight end and the running back. Where y'all at with those two positions? AJ, floor is yours. What you think?
Yeah, man. I think I got a different approach when it comes to tight end, man. Like I like the sexy tight end, I guess y'all would say. I like the
I'm with you.
Reeves, the Darren Wallers, the Travis Kelce's, the guys that maybe they don't block the best, but them motherfuckers can stretch the field. They can be put on the outside and be mismatches. I'm not cool with the Jason Witten type. I'm not cool with the Jeremy Sprinkle types. Like, I'm not cool with any
Jeremy
of that.
Sprinkle.
Like, I want the sexy tight end. So, Logan works, but like Mual even just reemphasized, like at the end of the day, he has a complex injury, not just like a basic torn ACL. He's a guy holding a lot of weight as well. If he does come back, he's definitely going to be getting hit in that area again repeatedly. I think you have to figure out something tight end wise. I just don't think that you'll be in the market actively with money to sign like an Njoku, but I would love to get Njoku in this offense and get him featured and see what he does. Like I said, I like a different type of guy at tight end.
100%. I'm all for Gesicki personally. If I had to get a grade for this unit, I have to include the context, which is the injuries, unfortunately. But overall, I would say it's around a C average. But with Logan Thomas healthy, these guys were at like a B minus, B plus, B minus or B, excuse me, not B plus, B minus or B. I just liked how they all played together when in their specific individual assignments. Ricky Seals came in. I won't forget that touchdown catch against with the Giants. That fucking laser randomly corner the end zone where he made that catch. And nobody really saw that coming from him. Like, we didn't even know who it was when he caught it. It was like, oh, that's Ricky Seals-Jones. Like, all right, okay, like we know who he is. And obviously, John Bates had a lot of opportunity towards the back tail end of the season. So you saw his potential there in terms of his ability to show some production and productivity and that he could keep up in the NFL. But Gesicki, he's a playmaker. And if you think about what you're going to do, especially at this next position that we're going to talk about, when you look at the other options, if you don't want to spend too much of your investments at the wide receiver position, you got to think about tight end and how to help out a quarterback, especially a younger quarterback who may be coming in and needs as much playmakers on the field. You can kind of diverse your assets in terms of what you're willing to spend on that offense by getting himself a versatile tight end who can maneuver on all levels of the field. So with that being said, wide receiver. So we have pending free agents Cam Sims. And just to be clear, I would try to re-sign Ricky Seals-Jones. I agree with what Dre and Montel said about that guy himself. But we have Cam Sims pending, Adam Humphries, DeAndre Carter all set to hit the market with potential free agents. Mike Williams, whose AAV is expected at $16 million. He's 27 years old. Christian Kirk out of Arizona, $11.8 million, 25 years old. Demarcus Robinson out of Kansas City. I like this guy. 27 years old, $3 million expected. Juju Smith-Schuster. I struggle with that one. 25 years old. Jakeem Grant, 29 years old, out of Chicago right now. He would be looked at as a DeAndre Carter replacement if DeAndre happened to leave Washington. Obviously, we know Marquez Valdez-Scantling with his relationship with Green Bay, 27 years old. And then Russell Gage, 26 years old with the Atlanta Falcons. Fellas, I'm going to hand it over to you all. AJ, you get the first stab at this one. What do you think about this position? What do you think about the grade with the receivers? And what are you going to do moving forward right now?
I think the wide receiver position for Washington is an F. The reason why I say it's an F, of course, yeah, we got Terry McLaurin, but outside of that, you got just a bunch of Jags, which is just just another guy. Then you went and signed Curtis Samuel, who played in the same amount of games I did for Washington football team this year. Yeah, so it's just a position that needs an overhaul completely. Need to figure out who's going to be the slot guy going forward and who also is going to play alongside Terry. I do think that there are a couple guys of interest for me as far as like signing wide receiver wise. Yeah. As far as me wanting them to sign free agency wise, but I don't think it will happen. I've mentioned in the past Mike Williams of the Los Angeles Chargers. I think he would be a great piece to this team. Big body, can get open. He's not a burner, but he provides you someone that runs a good route tree, big body, opportunity to take the pressure off of Terry. Other guy is Odell Beckham Jr. You know, a lot of people for the past couple of years have written him off, but dude is an elite wide receiver out here. I don't see LA being able to pay him long term the money that he would possibly want. At the end of the day, for him, the benefit is being in a place that he likes. He likes LA. That's his home. In the off season, maybe the opportunity to compete and being in that Sean McVay offense might, lure him to stay there at a cheaper cost. But outside of that, when it comes to the wide receiver and free agency market, I wouldn't touch anything else. Once again, I got like the Les Snead approach, man. Fuck them picks. You feel me? So as far as like the picks, of course I want us to be in play for quarterback, but only an elite quarterback. But if I don't end up getting an elite quarterback, I'm okay with moving picks to go get a wide receiver, whether that be in the draft first round or trying to get, someone like a Calvin Ridley, maybe a Michael Thomas or whoever that might be out there in the wide receiver market. But if I do end up staying at 11 and I do secure my quarterback, whether it be Watson, Rodgers, or Russell Wilson, I would like to see this team draft Jameson Williams, the wide receiver out of Alabama. I think once he recovers from his ACL injury, you have another number one wide receiver that you'd be adding to go alongside Terry. He can literally do everything. He runs nice routes. Um, he's the yard after catch guy. He can do everything. So that's how I would like for them to adjust the position going forward.
All right. So a couple people mentioned, our boy Merle mentioned re-sign Cam Sims and DeAndre Carter. Said sign Michael Gallup. Darius Rick, excuse me, my bad. Mentioned DJ Chalk. And do we have any other comments? Nah. So yeah, that's where we at. Some people says DJ Chalk and Michael Gallup in free agency. Dre Montel, whoever want to take the next one.
Yeah, I guess for me, a wide receiver, the grade I would have to give, I'm kind of in agreement with AJ. I think it was a really disappointing unit. I mean, obviously you signed Curtis Samuel to kind of take some pressure off of Terry McLaurin this year and be the guy that you can kind of rely on. We couldn't rely on him at all due to injury, and outside of that, no one else stepped up all year as like a reliable number 2 receiving target, which was our weakness going into last year, and it's still a weakness right now. We don't have a reliable number 2 target. Now, if Curtis Samuel, obviously, if he comes back from injury and he's the player you thought you were signing, then that changes some things. But right now, we can't rely on that. So as of right now, I'm still looking at wide receiver as a huge need. And if you're going to address that in the draft, now this is assuming that you've made a trade already, prior to the draft. You got your guy in. I would draft wide receiver in the first round, maybe even number 11. Maybe I trade down, but guys I'm looking at obviously early in that draft, Garrett Wilson, Ohio State. I'm looking at Drake London and USC. Maybe if you trade down, you get a Chris Olave, Ohio State. I like Trey Burks from Arkansas. I like Jahan Dotson from Penn State. And then the free agents on the free agent side, I like Mike Williams. We already talked about that. San Diego guy, I think he'd be a reliable number 2 target. Will Fuller, I mean, he's been injured this past season up in Houston, but he's a guy that's proven he can get it done as a number 2 receiver. And then, as been mentioned in the chat already, I like DJ Chark. That's another guy I'm looking at. He's a big wide receiver. He runs a 4.3. I think he's a potential number 2 target. So those are guys I would look at if you're looking to upgrade the position.
Y'all both kind of stole my
He
thunder.
loved that. He loved
Yeah,
that.
y'all stole all my thunder because one, it was so crazy how the local media hyped this. The receiver group is probably becoming the strongest group on the team after the D line after last season. And of course we have Terry McLaurin but outside of Terry, no one else produced. And you know what's crazy? Although we feel as though, receiver is a big need, I don't think that this team is going to address receiver. I know you guys both said, you can't depend on Curtis Samuel. I think that they are. I think they're depending on Curtis Samuel. Of course, is it the best idea? No, but I think that they're going to try to depend on Curtis Samuel to be the Curtis Samuel that he was in Carolina. And I think it's going to be hard to allocate a lot of assets to receiver because they're going to try to pay Terry McLaurin as well. So I don't really see them going after a free agent receiver.
What is the Curtis Samuel? Like that's what I've always wondered.
That's a
even
good
when
question.
you sign him, I don't know what a Curtis Samuel is. Like,
well, he's $30 million, and you got to pay Terry McLaurin. And I'm in agreement with Dre. Me personally, I would draft the receiver at number 11. That's why I laughed so hard because that's been my mindset this whole time. I really don't want to draft the quarterback. And for many reasons, Scott Turner being one of them. I think that may be the best route for the future, but I don't know what's in this draft. I don't really trust this coaching staff to really hone the skills of a quarterback. So I think you just get as many weapons as you can. Go get you a guy. If you can get a Watson or what, I don't think that that's likely. You know what I mean. But I do think if you plug in someone who can sling that thing, and he got Terry, and he got Chris Olave, I think the receivers in the draft, receivers are coming out and making an instant impact. So I think you draft a guy at 11, pair him with Terry, pair him with Logan Thomas, pair him with Gibson. Hopefully we can sign a McKissick. I think a quarterback. it'll be hard to walk into that situation and not succeed, especially if Curtis Samuels is healthy. But I do think it's a group that needs a lot of attention.
Yeah. He said, Al too said he forgot to add Curtis Samuel to his running back grade. He give him a B minus. Um, but listen, here I won't be too long with this one because you all touched on everything that I agree with. I'll just say D. I don't know how I graded him that fair, and based on the numbers that I'm about to tell you all, it really should be an F. But Terry McLaurin had 1,000 yards receiving this year. The nearest receiver close to Terry McLaurin that was not a running back because J.D. McKissic came second was Adam Humphries, who came third, and he played all 17 games, 41 catches for 383 yards. So that's the nearest receiver on this roster to Terry McLaurin, and that's just something that you really can't account for. In terms of Curtis Samuel, I'm glad that y'all asked, like, what is Curtis Samuel? And when you ask about, like, what you can do at that position, trust me, fellas, Curtis Samuel contract is not going to stop them from doing anything with that position. There's a potential out after 2022 if things don't work out for Curtis Samuel where you can afford to pay a receiver now because if something doesn't work out with Curtis Samuel, you cut Curtis Samuel after 2022. You have a dead cap of $7 million, but you save a lot of money. So there is something in which they can get out of this thing if it doesn't work in this year as well. So that's just something to keep in mind as you move forward. We can all keep our options open at the wide receiver position for sure. All right. So we have tight end cover, running back, wide receiver, offensive line. I'll go through this one very quickly. Cornelius Lucas, Brandon Scherf, Tyler Lawson, all tackles and one. Excuse me, I'm tripping. Cornelius is a tackle, Brandon Scherf a guard, Tyler Lawson a center. I'll just say out of those three, I would bring Tyler Lawson back for the depth part. Cornelius Lucas, I feel like he struggled too much for him to even have an opportunity to come back. Not necessarily. I mean, if he's around in the summertime or training camp time, I'll bring him back. But outside of that, like that's my quick synopsis because the quarterback conversation we have is coming up is going to be interesting. So that's it for me. I'm just bringing back. I'm gonna try to bring back Tyler Larson, Brandon Scherf, Cornelius Lucas can walk, and that's kind of where I'm at. My grade, I'd say a B, solid B.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give the offensive line a B plus. I think they were a B plus throughout the year. I mean, the injuries they had, I thought they were, consistently the best unit on the offense this year. Regardless of injuries, anything, they always pretty much. You never looked at a game where you watched and you said, "Man, that offensive line looks really bad." Like I don't think you ever watched one of those games this season where you thought that. And the numbers kind of, backed that up. But as far as what we need going forward on the offensive line, I mean, depth pieces are always cool, but I think you have a pretty good core starting guys. I think you got you locked down Charles Leno at left tackle. You have Sam Cosmi at right tackle, who looked promising in his rookie year. You have Chase Roullier at the center spot. I think Eric Flowers is a staple left guard for us. I mean, he was before he left and went to Miami, and he came back and he picked up where he left off with us. So now you're looking at the right guard spot where Brandon Scherf, obviously he wants the big money, and I would not sign Brandon Scherf to that big money. I'm sorry. I don't think the drop-off from him to Wes Schweitzer was a significant drop-off, but that's not to say I would just, put Wes Schweitzer as the lock-in left right guard. I think, if they were to spend some free agency money, this is probably one spot they do want to look at. I think you can go out and get a guy like Laken Tomlinson for half the money of Brandon Scherf and not, even half the drop-off you would get from Brandon Scherf. So him or a guy like Connor Williams, I'm looking at in free agency. I wouldn't necessarily look too much at the draft for replacement. The guard spot free agency is the perfect spot to get that. And you have a couple of good ones outside of Brandon Scherf and Laken Tomlinson and Connor Williams.
So I like my O-line to have camaraderie. I want to keep everybody that we have aside from Brandon Scherf, of course, because of the price tag, and he clearly doesn't want to be here. And we were just too stupid to get any type of trade value for him, and that's the Washington way. But again, I let Scherf walk, I let Lucas walk. I re-sign Larson, and I rock out with Wes Schweitzer as my right guard. Sam Cosmi looked pretty good at right tackle. Of course, Chase Roullier is probably one of the most underrated centers in the league, and I think that Flowers as your left guard, and you just re-sign Leno as your left tackle, and I try to let those guys continue to build with one another and learn one another because the O-line is probably the most, I don't know, between the O-line and the secondary, you got to play unit football. It's it's not as much about as individuals as it is about being a strong unit, and they play pretty well as a unit. Even the guys who came in like Keith Ishmael, and I didn't really like too much of Sadiq Charles, but a lot of guys stepped up this year and looked pretty good.
Absolutely. AJ, you got thoughts on the O line?
Um, I think I'll just I'll just say I wouldn't pay Brandon Sheriff to be the highest paid guard in the NFL. Um, that's about it. I mean, yeah, it's just they work together well, but it's nothing like to go crazy about. They definitely work together well, and shout out to the offensive line coach because they really don't have no superstars on that end or elite talent at any of the positions on the O line, but they work well together.
Absolutely. Okay. And one thing's for sure, we're gonna test out that theory when Sheriff walks about if we can really run without him, because apparently we are winless when he doesn't play. So we'll figure that part out. All right, so let's close out the quarterback talk, man. Get this thing out the way, because I know ain't nobody gonna like these options, but we gotta talk about it because we have to be open to everything. Pending free agent for Washington is Kyle Allen, restricted free agent, so we'll see how that kind of goes. Potential options out there in free agency, we have Jameson Winston from the New Orleans Saints, 28 years old. Jacoby Brissett from the he played with Miami this year, 29 years old. Teddy Bridgewater, Denver Broncos, 29 years old. Marcus Mariota, 28 years old, of the Las Vegas Raiders. And then Mitchell Trubisky with the Buffalo Bills, 27 years old. Fellas, I know where we are with this quarterback position and where we are with the roster. The question that I will ask to kind of shake things up is, we talk about Carr, we talk about Wilson, we talk about Rodgers, and all of those options to trade for. I mean, Jimmy G, we would include in that as well. Jimmy G. Now on my outline, it was Matt Ryan up here, but after I did some digging, he'd probably end up staying in Atlanta for at least another year. But what if your options aren't the top tier and you had to go dig in free agency? What we know how unappealing it is, but we have to kind of consider that to be a possibility because there may be a drafted rookie coming in. So fellas, I'm gonna hand the floor to you all. You have some of the potential names. Those are the top names in free agency. But what if your options aren't to Carr, Wilson, and Rodgers, and you had to dig and try and find that rookie that free agent quarterback to kind of keep things afloat?
I guess for me, if you're going to go that route, if you're not going to get one of the top, bona fide NFL guys that's available, then you're going to probably have to. I mean, Carr taking off the table kind of throws me for a loop because I look at him. I don't look at him as one of the big available targets available. I look at him as the next level. Like he's probably in that 12 to 14 range of quarterbacks, and he's going to command a first round pick. But if you can't get Carr, then you're going to probably have to look at free agency. And this is where I'll probably look at a guy like Jameis Winston. And that's not to say he's going to be our franchise quarterback going forward, but this is just somebody you have to bring in because you have no one else at this point. So I'm looking at a Jameis Winston. But if you're going to go to free agency route in the draft or, in this offseason, you have to draft a guy as well. Like you have to double dip the quarterback position. You just can't say I'm signing Jameis Winston. Here you go, Washington football with your new name and everything, your new rebrand. Jameis Winston is our guy going forward. No, you have to also draft a guy. You have to double dip at the position. Like you can't just settle and say this is it. This is it. I'm going with this guy, kind of like last year when he went with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen. They told you this is it. This is all we think we need at the position right now, and this is all we're going to do. But no, you can't do that this year. If free agency is the only route that you have at the quarterback position this year, you have to double dip. But if I'm going free agency, I'm definitely looking at a guy like Jameis Winston. I hate to say Mitchell Trubisky, but that's the kind of desperation you're in with this franchise. I don't think he'll change much here. I don't think he'll do much here. But either way, you're going to have to draft a guy. And I think the first round pick would have to be a quarterback if you're looking at free agency for a quarterback.
See, So the issue I have is if you are going to sign a free agent quarterback and then draft one in the first round or second round, then you have to trade Taylor Heineke. He cannot be on this roster.
Hey, I told you.
He
Look, I
he
told
can
you. What I'm doing that all season. Dangling, put that thing out there, trade bait,
yeah
bro. You know what I'm saying? It's time
he
to go.
can't be on the roster at all if you have to go that way. But I feel like if you even have to go that route, Ron Rivera might as well start calling the movers. You feel me? And and getting ready to move out of Asburn, Leesburg, whatever the hell he lives. Because at the end of the day, you were brought in here to solidify this team. And even, trading for a guy like Derek Carr, I don't feel like that really moves the needle that much for this franchise. Yeah, he's cool. He's definitely a good leader. Like I've seen it firsthand, having a client that happened to get released and signed with the Raiders and seeing, Derek Carr, how he maneuvers in person and things of that nature. But it's like you gotta make a big splash here, man. Like from a corporate standpoint, you're changing your name. You're now trying to rebrand yourself and not be looked at as like the dead skins or that team just called the football team. You need to make a power play. So that's why it's weird when I see people saying like, "Oh, I don't see Watson coming here. I don't see Rodgers coming here or Wilson coming here." Why don't you? You have a 50-50 chance. You feel me? Like nobody really knows what's going on, but if you know if you paid close attention to Daniel Snyder enough, forget even Ron Rivera, he wants to make that big play. He wants to make that big splash. I mean, they're announcing the damn team name on what is it? Good Morning America?
Yeah.
Like, there's no need to do that. You feel me? Like, you don't need to go on Good Morning America to announce your new team name. I don't think the Cleveland Indians went from the Cleveland Guardians and did that announcement on,
They did that shit on Twitter.
on Good Morning America or
They
NBC
put that on
Today.
their draft and fucking he said we're gonna do it on this date at this time.
Yeah,
Tweet.
like you don't need to do that. So, in order for this team to succeed overall and just to get their name out there in a better way and move product and get these tickets rolling in, because you can't change the team name and then the away team is taking up most of your seats. You have to go get that elite quarterback, and I think Ron knows it. I think he's kind of almost giddy about it because he knows that they're about to go all in. Because, like I said, if they don't go all in for a quarterback and get an elite talent in here, he's never going to be a head coach in the NFL ever again.
I agree.
Because
I agree.
this team is not going to be able to sustain. Because it's like, what is the goal here? So let's say if you bring in a Derek Carr or you go and draft a rookie and you end up missing the playoffs or you make the playoffs and you lose round one, is that enough to keep Ron Rivera in town? Or could you just move on to the next coach and go about your day? Like, I just feel like this team has to be more aggressive with trying to acquire a quarterback, and free agency is not the option. If you even have to consider free agency and think about a Marcus Mariota or Mitchell Trubisky, you already lost. And the
I,
players are human as well. Like, they realize who's going to be quarterback or not. Like, if you watch a lot of these interviews that former players or current players talk about Tom Brady, what do they always emphasize? They emphasize on he gives you hope that you even have a chance to compete. Like, disregard everything certain guys have said about Taylor Heineke in the past year and a half and how much they like him or they compare him to so-and-so guy, whatever. In reality, he doesn't really give them a real chance to win or compete for something real, which is the chip. He doesn't give them that. And the thing with football players, man, they bullshit and they lie a lot to the media because the fact they don't have guaranteed contracts. So they're always scared. Like, they never really speak their truth until they're at the end of their career or it's already over. And it's like you bring in a Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers in here, even a Derek Carr, those guys going to be like, oh, that boy a baller. Like, we done seen what he's done. We feel like we have a chance. But if you go and bring in a Mitchell Trubisky, you're like, oh shit, here we go again. I'm about to try to see if I can get out of town. If I can get on a new team or I'm out of here when my contract expires.
So
Like,
here's the thing.
could you imagine being Terry McLaurin? You sign your new deal and you get no quarterback in this trade market, and your team comes out and says they're signing Mitchell Trubisky. You'd be like, what the hell did I just do?
So here's the thing that I got with this position and the situation that Washington is in, right? Now I know when people say this, right? I know they're not saying literally, but it's important to talk about this side of it. And what I mean by this is, like, going into the new rebrand, the new brand, the new Washington, whatever their name is. Obviously, you want to go in there with your quarterback, and I think people kind of confuse the timelines. And what I mean by that is, Washington is coming out with their new name next week. Free agency doesn't start until March. Free agency doesn't start till like 2 weeks into March. So while you'll hear some rumors around Super Bowl time, because that's from what I remember, those are some of the times that previous trades that were in place. I think Matt Stafford and Alex Smith come to mind. Those two were done around the Super Bowl time. So you kind of knew the framework in place. However, at the end of the day, enough time will have passed from the name, the rebrand, the all that stuff to free agency where you're like, okay, now that we're done with this, we have to realistically think about our options. And if something happened where they said free agency is where we're going to have to pick up a placeholder, and do whatever with Taylor Heineke. Kyle Allen's already about to go because he's restricted, but he's a free agent. We don't want to bring him back. You have to figure that part out. And I think if something makes sense for them, I wouldn't be surprised if they went the free agency route. But I also think realistically, when we talk about making that big splash, it's going to be hard to do. Now, my question to you, AJ, when you said it's a 50-50 chance, my question is, what's 50-50? Like, how do we define 50-50 when it comes to Washington and their chances of competing against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the New York Giants, the Miami Dolphins, and other teams like that who have similar, if not more, firepower to bargain for a trade? Even the Broncos, I would imagine, I don't know what they would be willing to give up because they have a very good roster right now. So it's like, are you going to willing to give up some pieces? But what's 50-50 when you're comparing them to other people out there with more firepower and you're talking about 2 or 3 quarterbacks, and odds are all 3 of them aren't going to be moving at all. It's probably going to be maybe 1 or 2. It's not going to be everybody.
I mean, I think 50-50 is because for the particular reason of them being the quarterback and being high magnitude individuals, they control their destination. So no matter if the Detroit Lions came in and offered picks for the first round picks for the next 10 years, it wouldn't matter. That player still dictates where they want to go, and they have control and say so to work out that trade, whether it be with their agent and the other team and all 3 together, all 3 parties work together. However, they control their destination. Let's say even an example, Pittsburgh, right? I can't remember Pittsburgh's exact draft capital situation because I can't remember exactly how much they gave up for Minkah Fitzpatrick, if they have a first this year or not. But is that really a better team? Like, they don't have an offensive line. They're
much more stable though.
Yeah, they're a much more stable organization and a great coach. But do you have the players around you to be successful? You have a solid defense, but it's lacking pieces over there as well, whether it be from certain linebackers inside or corners. It's not a well put together team talent wise. It's just Mike Tomlin does a very good job of coaching, right? But if you're a quarterback, what pieces do you really have that intrigue you that much? Are you trying to go over there and play with Deontay Johnson as wide receiver, who's I think is a free agent as well? You're trying to play with Claypool. So I feel like you can, it all depends on how you go about this, man. Like, you can go to a quarterback and work out the details and say, hey, who also would you like us to be interested in bringing in here that, you know, could make this a great partnership marriage. The first crack you really got at things before Super Bowl is Senior Bowl next week. All the teams are going to be there together. Their GMs, their scouts, all of those things. They'll be able to talk face-to-face, hang out with each other, go grab lunch, go grab dinner. You'll start to hear those rumors come out. You'll start to hear interest and a little bit more conversation. You also got the combine after Super Bowl and before free agency. So you'll have a better gist of what's going on. But that's why I say it's 50-50. Nobody truly knows where these guys want to go. It's a lot of rumors. I mean, you see a lot of people trying to take their little spin and crack at leaking news. But Jordan Schultz, I think a couple weeks ago, was like, yeah, Deshaun Watson and Brian Flores have been in constant communication. They want to work together. And then that motherfucker had to post something where he retracted everything the other day. That he said, you know, nobody truly knows but those individuals and the people that represent them, the list of teams that they want to go to. And, you know, if Russell Wilson truly comes out and says, like, hey, I don't want to be in Seattle, they're going to have to trade him. They're not going to be able to hold him against his will. He already kind of put it out there last year with, you know, his agent dropping some of those team names. So it's just wait and see approach. But if you don't pull this off, then, you know, what will this fan base look like if you come out and you now have to pursue a quarterback within free agency? Because these draft prospects at quarterback don't look too pleasing to me to be, you know, high on and say, hey, I can't wait till we draft so and so.
Well, look, I do want to add to this that AJ is right. You do need a guy, but this is also kind of the worst year to kind of need a guy. Like, I feel like last year was, you know, I guess in, you know, the experts take of needing a quarterback, you would go get one last year because, you know, a lot of guys were on the trade market last year, including Matt Stafford. You had 5 quarterbacks go in the first round last year, and that was considered to be a really good quarterback class. But this year they kind of look at it as a weak class, and maybe 2 or 3 guys go first round this year. But if I'm Washington, or if I'm a Washington fan, I'm actually looking at next week. Next week is the week I want to look at.
5 quarterbacks, I think.
Yeah, it was 5 quarterbacks last year in the draft. But if I'm a Washington fan, especially if I'm kind of paying attention to the trade market, I'm looking at next week. Next week is, I don't know the exact dates, but I know it's between the 30th and the Super Bowl, early February, late January. But this is the week that typically happens where any quarterback that's going to matter the next year that gets traded, they get traded in this week. We got traded. We traded.
I thought you were talking about the Senior Bowl. That's what I said that.
No, that's one thing. But we traded for Alex Smith, I think, on January 30th, in 2018. In 2018, we traded for Alex Smith on January 30th. Today's January 25th, so that's next week. And also, Matt Stafford got traded around January. I don't know if it was January 30th, the exact day. Matt Stafford got traded to he got traded to the Los Angeles Rams around this time last year in late January, early February. This is normally when, like, if a quarterback is going to matter the next coming year, or a quarterback that, you know, mattered to his team the year prior, he gets traded during that week next week. So if Washington is going to make that key trade, it's going to happen next week. And not only does next week happen for, you know, a potential trade opportunity, but next week also happens to be the name change for Washington. So I would figure if Washington was making a trade for a guy, you know, say a Derek Carr or a Russell Wilson. I mean, this is hypothetically speaking, but if they were going to make that trade for that type of player, I think it would happen next week during the rebrand. Like after the rebrand, you named your team. Now you're going to go out and you're going to say, I got my quarterback. So I would just say, if you're looking at quarterback and you're looking to trade for one, you'll watch out for next week.
I think it's going to happen, and I've told y'all, I think it's going to happen in the same 24-hour span. It's great PR. It's great branding, great marketing. Like Dre even touched on, Matt Stafford got traded on the 30th of January last year. Alex Smith, same thing. Next week is the first opportunity for these scouts and GM and player personnel people to see a lot of the top quarterback prospects at the Senior Bowl in person. Because Malik Willis is going to be there. Ryan Pickett is going. Is his name Ryan Pickett?
No, Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett. My bad. Kenny Pickett is going to be there. Matt
All
Corral
of
is going to be there.
Ritter.
All of the yeah. Ritter's going to be there. The top guys that you see as quarterback prospects are going to be at the Senior Bowl. You'll be able to see them on the field. You'll be able to sit down with them. You'll be able to have different conversations with them and their representatives. And on top of that, those same representatives represent the guys that you possibly might want to trade for. So it works hand in hand. I definitely feel like more rumors and more talk is going to start coming out next week. And then it'll work in perfectly with the team announcement. But if you don't really see anything happen by next week, then they probably won't be trading for a quarterback. Because in the past couple of years, it's traditionally hasn't been happening after Super Bowl. It's been happening before Super Bowl, where these big blockbuster trades are happening with the framework in place, and that allows a team to be able to, go about scouting and who they want to bring in prospect wise and go after for the draft much differently. Yeah, also free agency. Because you want to be able to have an ideal of your team going into the combine, so that when you are in Indianapolis, you can have these conversations. A lot of things happen in Indianapolis that the NFL knows about, and I mean, I guess maybe they don't want to police it so much, but it's a lot of conversations, back door, front door, main lobby, dinners that take place, and you just want to be able to set up everything perfectly, because a lot of these free agency deals definitely get chopped up at the combine.
Well, if there's one thing for sure, moving forward, at least for Trap or Dive, we will be talking to some of the people out there, Vegas, Miami, Seattle, for sure, Green Bay too, around the corner. Talking to some of these reporters who cover these teams day in and day out, to get their pulse on these quarterbacks and what the teams are looking at in terms of how they feel about moving them and things like that. So we'll have much more insight on Trap or Dive, especially if you are a fan of either of the 4 quarterbacks on those teams. So there's that. Let's get out of here with the quote of the week. This is unknown. I don't know who did it, so I'll just put my name on it. The great philosopher Henry Mual said, "Don't cling to a mistake because you spent a lot of time making it." And I won't do no soliloquy. I'll just say I made a ton of mistakes, and I think one of the things that I struggle in my head is I overanalyze and I'm way too hard on myself critiquing mistakes. But I think as long as you're getting better and finding a way to become better outside or over that one mistake and just trying to find a way to be better in whatever situation that may be, I think you're winning in that situation. As long as you continue to be better, as long as you learn from your mistake and find ways to improve, don't spend so much time dwelling on something that will eventually become obsolete as your life moves forward. So again, quote of the week for me: don't cling to a mistake because you spent a lot of time making it. Fellas, if y'all got something to say on that, floor is yours.
I agree 100% with that. I don't have much to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think to my personal development, I'm still learning to not cling on to certain mistakes. Some things I could just brush off, but certain things I'm like, fuck, man. You feel me? It could be recent, it could be some years ago. You just kind of like just think on it hindsight wise, but at the end of the day, we all are human. We're all looking to improve and get that opportunity to be better each day.
Boom. There we go, man. Episode of Trap or Dive is wrapped up. Appreciate everybody who tuned in, man. We had a lot of viewers today. Stayed in for the duration of the show. So with that being said, I'm back tomorrow with the R32 side of Trap or Dive. The fellas, we will be back next Thursday. Obviously, the name is coming out on Wednesday. So we will be back next Thursday with a backside of the show, a Miami guest to help us break down the Tua situation in Miami and the odds of him coming or moving to a different team, not necessarily coming to Washington, but moving to a different team. So with that being said, fellas and ladies and everybody tuning in, we out of here. Y'all be safe. Enjoy your evening, all that good stuff. Peace. Where is that thing at?